I am Bobby Jefferson, 67 years old, and I built my company from nothing while raising my daughter Amanda alone after my husband died. Today was supposed to be our dream family vacation to Hawaii. I arrived early at the gate, gifts for my grandchildren in hand, heart full of excitement. Then I saw something change in Amanda's eyes as her husband Justin whispered in her ear. Her words shattered me. "Mom, we decided to take this trip alone. Your ticket is for tomorrow." If you have ever felt betrayal cut deeper than a knife, let me know where you are watching from, and subscribe to hear how I turned this heartbreaking moment into my finest hour. Life has a way of testing you when you least expect it. For me, that test came early when my husband Michael died suddenly of a heart attack when our daughter Amanda was only 3 years old. One minute we were planning our future. The next I was a widow with a mortgage, a toddler, and barely enough savings to cover the funeral costs. I remember sitting at our kitchen table the night after the funeral, Amanda finally asleep, bills spread out before me. That night I made 2 promises. I would never let Amanda feel the absence of love in her life, and I would build something that would secure our future. My business started right there at that kitchen table. I had a background in financial planning and noticed that many small business owners in our community struggled with managing their finances. I began offering consulting services on weekends while keeping my day job at the bank. For 3 years, I worked 7 days a week, often surviving on 4 hours of sleep. Amanda became my little assistant early on. She would sit with her coloring books during client meetings at our home, occasionally charming clients with her precocious comments. By the time she was 8, my client list had grown enough that I could lease a small office and hire an assistant. At 10, Amanda understood the basics of profit and loss statements because we reviewed mine together over ice cream every Friday night. The sacrifices were constant and sometimes painful. I missed school plays when important clients needed me. I worked through fevers and exhaustion. When Amanda needed braces, I took out a loan rather than touch the college fund I had started for her. During her teenage years when she needed her mother most, I was sometimes lost in spreadsheets and business plans. But there were beautiful moments too. Our Sunday morning pancake tradition never wavered. I made it to every parent-teacher conference, rescheduling clients if necessary. We had our annual mother-daughter trip to the lake house my parents had left me, where we would disconnect from the world and reconnect with each other. By the time Amanda graduated high school, my financial consulting firm had 20 employees and a reputation for excellence. I had saved enough to send her to an elite private college without loans. I still remember dropping her at her dormitory, both of us crying, me with pride, and her with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. During her college years, our bond remained strong despite the distance. We called each other every other day, and I flew to see her once a month. She would introduce me to her friends as my mom, the business badass, which always made me laugh. When she graduated with honors in business administration, I saw my sacrifices reflected in her confident smile. The business continued to grow exponentially during Amanda's 20s. What had started at my kitchen table was now Clarity Financial Partners, with offices in 3 states and over 100 employees. Amanda worked for other firms after college, gaining experience while insisting she needed to make it on her own merit. I respected that, even while keeping a position open for her whenever she was ready. 5 years ago, at 62, I received an offer to sell the company that I could not refuse, $28 million. The number still sometimes seems unreal to me. I stayed on as a consultant, still working with some of my original clients, who had become dear friends over the decades. By then, Amanda had been married to Justin for 3 years. I remember their wedding day with mixed emotions now. She looked radiant, but I had reservations about Justin from our first meeting. There was something calculated behind his charm, something that set off warning bells in my gut. But Amanda was 32, successful in her own career in marketing, and madly in love. Who was I to question her judgment? The birth of my granddaughter Sophia 7 years ago, followed by grandson Lucas 2 years later, brought pure joy into my life. Those children became my world. I purchased a vacation home just 30 minutes from Amanda and Justin's house, specifically to be closer to them. I babysit whenever asked, attended every soccer game and dance recital, and established college funds for both children immediately after their births. At first, married life seemed to make Amanda happy, but I noticed subtle changes over time. Phone calls became less frequent. When we did speak, Amanda seemed distracted, often saying I need to check with Justin before making any plans. Small traditions we had maintained even during her college years gradually disappeared. Still, I maintained hope. Family is everything to me, and I was determined to nurture our bonds. That is why I planned this dream vacation to Hawaii. 2 weeks at a luxury resort with a private villa large enough for all of us. I spent months researching activities that both adults and children would enjoy. I arranged for a professional photographer to capture family moments on the beach. I even contacted Amanda's and Justin's employers personally to ensure they could take the full 2 weeks off. The day I presented them with the itinerary and plane tickets 3 months ago, Amanda seemed genuinely excited. She hugged me tightly and said, "Mom, this is too much, but I cannot wait." Justin's response was more measured, but he smiled and thanked me appropriately. Little Sophia danced around the room chanting "Hawaii, Hawaii," while Lucas asked if there would be dolphins. It was one of the happiest family moments we had shared in years, which makes what happened at the airport all the more devastating. The morning of our flight, I woke up at 4:30, too excited to sleep any longer. I had packed and repacked my suitcase several times in the previous days, wanting everything to be perfect. In my carry-on bag, I had special surprises for the flight travel journals for each of us, including child-friendly versions for Sophia and Lucas noise-canceling headphones for everyone, and comfort items I knew each family member would appreciate. I arrived at the airport 3 hours early, as is my habit. I have always believed that rushing creates unnecessary stress, especially when traveling with children. The plan was for Amanda, Justin, and the kids to meet me at the gate an hour before boarding, giving us time to have a leisurely breakfast together before our 9-hour flight to Honolulu. As I waited at the gate, I watched other families arrive, the excitement on the children's faces mirroring what I felt inside. This vacation represented more than just a luxury getaway for me. It was an opportunity to rebuild the closeness that had gradually eroded between Amanda and me. It was a chance to create memories that my grandchildren would carry with them forever. It was, I hoped, the beginning of a new chapter for our family. When I finally spotted them walking toward the gate, my heart swelled. Sophia was wearing the Hawaiian print dress I had given her last week, her dark curls bouncing as she skipped ahead of her parents. Lucas was clutching his favorite stuffed dinosaur, the one I had bought him for his 3rd birthday. Amanda looked beautiful but tense, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Justin walked slightly behind her, his hand on her lower back, in what seemed like a guiding rather than affectionate gesture. Grandma Sophia called out, breaking away from her mother to run toward me. I knelt down to receive her enthusiastic hug, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "There is my sunshine," I said, holding her tight before releasing her to greet Lucas, who approached more shyly but still offered his dinosaur for me to kiss hello, as was our custom. When I stood to hug Amanda, I noticed her exchange a glance with Justin. Something in that look sent a chill through me. "Mom," Amanda said, her voice slightly higher than normal. "We need to talk." Before she could continue, I heard Justin say in a low voice, "Remember the plan." I pretended not to hear this as I reached to give Amanda a hug. Her body was rigid, and she pulled away quickly. "Is everything okay?" I asked, looking between them. "Are the kids excited for the trip?" "I have some surprises for the flight." I reached into my bag to retrieve the gifts. "Mom," Amanda interrupted, her voice now firmer. "There has been a change of plans." I froze, my hand still in my bag. "What kind of change?" Justin stepped forward, then putting his arm around Amanda in what seemed like a possessive gesture. "Your ticket was mistakenly booked for tomorrow," he said smoothly. "We only realized last night when double-checking the itineraries." My confusion must have shown on my face because Amanda quickly added, "We tried to call you, but you must have been asleep." This made no sense. I had booked all the tickets myself. I had confirmed everything just yesterday, and my phone had been on all night as it always island. "There must be some mistake," I said, pulling out my phone to show them my ticket. "I have confirmation right here that all 5 tickets are for today's flight." A flash of something like guilt crossed Amanda's face, but it was quickly replaced by a determined expression I had seen many times before, usually when she was steeling herself to do something difficult. "Mom," she said, taking a deep breath, "this was not a mistake. We need family time without your interference." The word hit me like a physical blow. Interference. Was that how she saw my love and support? I do not understand. I managed to say, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. Justin's expression was barely concealing what I now recognized as satisfaction. Amanda and I feel that you have been too involved in our family decisions. This vacation is an opportunity for us to bond as a nuclear family. Nuclear family. The term felt like another slap. Was I now considered an outsider to my own daughter and grandchildren? Sophia, who had been listening to this exchange with growing confusion, tugged at my hand. Aren't you coming with us, Grandma? You promised to build sandcastles with me. Before I could answer, Justin knelt down to Sophia's level. Grandma will come tomorrow. She has some important work to do first. The lie rolled off his tongue with practiced ease. Sophia's lower lip trembled as she looked back at me. Promise you will come tomorrow. The lump in my throat made it hard to speak. I could not bring myself to perpetuate the lie, but I could not bear to upset her either. Before I could formulate a response, Lucas began to cry, clutching his dinosaur tighter. I want Grandma to come now, he wailed. Amanda looked distressed, but Justin's expression hardened. He stood and took both children by the hand, pulling them slightly away from me. We need to board soon, he said flatly. Say goodbye to Grandma. Sophia broke free from his grip and ran to me, throwing her arms around my waist in a fierce hug. I will save you a sandcastle, she whispered. Justin quickly pulled her back, whispering something in her ear that made her stop crying and look down at her shoes. The boarding announcement came over the loudspeaker, and Amanda finally met my eyes. What I saw there was not the daughter I had raised, but someone conflicted and somehow diminished. We will call when we land, she said, not sounding entirely convinced herself. Amanda, I said, finding my voice at last, please do not do this. Whatever issues we have, we can discuss them. Do not teach your children that it is acceptable to treat family this way. For a moment, I thought I had reached her. Something flickered in her eyes, a remnant of the strong, compassionate woman I had raised. But then Justin was there, his hand firmly on her shoulder. We need to board, he said, already turning her toward the gate. The last thing I saw as they walked away was Lucas looking back over his shoulder at me, confusion and sadness on his little face. Amanda did not look back once. I stood there frozen in place as they handed their boarding passes to the gate agent. A few curious passengers glanced my way, perhaps noticing the tears I could no longer hold back. An elderly woman sitting nearby reached over to pat my hand. Are you all right, dear? She asked kindly. I could not answer. The humiliation of being abandoned at the gate by my own daughter, the heartbreak of seeing my grandchildren, led away the shock of realizing this had been planned in advance, all combined into a pain so acute I could barely breathe. As I watched them disappear down the jetway, a single thought crystallized through my grief. This was not just a spontaneous decision. This was calculated. And based on Justin's satisfied expression, I suspected he was the architect of my exclusion. I sat in the uncomfortable airport chair for what felt like hours, though the clock on the wall showed only 20 minutes had passed since my family had boarded without me. The elderly woman who had asked if I was all right eventually moved to sit beside me, offering a tissue from her purse. Family troubles, she asked gently. I nodded, unable to articulate the depth of what had just happened. I have lived long enough to know that family can hurt us more deeply than anyone else, she said, her weathered hand patting mine. But I have also learned that we teach people how to treat us by what we accept. Her words penetrated the fog of my shock. What had I been accepting? What had I been teaching Amanda by allowing the gradual erosion of our relationship? As if awakening from a trance, memories of the past few years began to replay in my mind with new clarity. Justin's subtle comments about my interference whenever I offered to help with the children. Amanda canceling our traditional mother-daughter lunches with increasingly flimsy excuses. The way Justin had questioned me about my estate planning during last Thanksgiving dinner, his interest barely disguised as casual conversation. There was the time I overheard him tell Amanda, "Your mother has more than she needs. She should be helping us more with the mortgage." This despite the fact that I had already given them a generous down payment as a wedding gift. Then there was the incident 3 months ago when I arrived unannounced at their house with soup because Amanda had mentioned on the phone that Lucas had a cold. Justin had answered the door and blocked my entry, saying, "We have got this handled. Amanda is teaching Lucas that minor illnesses are part of life." When I called later, Amanda claimed they were trying to build resilience in the children. It had struck me as odd then. It felt sinister now. Most telling was the conversation I had accidentally overheard between Justin and his brother at Christmas. Once the old lady updates her will to include the grandkids directly, we will have more options, he had said when he thought no one was listening. I had dismissed it then as tasteless but not malicious. Now I wondered what options he had been referring to. The elderly woman beside me seemed to sense my internal struggle. Whatever it is, dear, remember that you have choices too. They made theirs. Now you make yours. She was right. I did have choices. I had built a multi-million-dollar business from nothing. I had raised a daughter alone. I had survived loss and hardship and come out stronger. I was not powerless. I straightened my spine and wiped my eyes. Thank you, I told the woman. You have reminded me of something important. She smiled knowingly. Go show them who you are. I gathered my belongings and walked with purpose toward the exit. As I did, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I rarely used. Thomas, this is Bobby Jefferson. I need the jet ready in 1 hour. Thomas was my pilot, though I seldom used the private jet I had purchased after selling my company. I generally found it environmentally irresponsible for a single passenger preferring commercial flights despite my wealth. Today was an exception. Of course, Miss Jefferson. May I ask where we are headed? Downtown to start. I need to visit my home briefly, and then meet my lawyer. We will be ready, ma'am. As I walked through the terminal toward the ground transportation area, I felt a strange calm replacing my initial distress. The pain was still there, but now it was accompanied by resolve. My life's work, my hard-earned success, was being used to finance people who did not respect me. That would end today. The car service arrived promptly, and I directed the driver to my home first. During the ride, I made another call. Elaine, it is Bobby. I need to see you urgently today. It is about my estate plan. Elaine had been my lawyer for over 20 years, handling both my business and personal legal matters. She was also one of my closest friends. I have a meeting until 2, but I can see you after that. Is everything all right? No, but it will be. I will explain when I see you. At home, I went directly to my study and opened the wall safe hidden behind a painting of the first office building I had purchased. Inside were all my important documents, the original copy of my will trust documents, property deeds, insurance policies, and a flash drive containing digital copies of everything. I placed it all in my briefcase, along with a folder of recent financial statements I kept in my desk. As I was about to leave, my eyes fell on a family photograph taken at Sophia's 5th birthday party. Amanda was standing beside me, both of us smiling as Sophia blew out her candles. Justin stood slightly apart, his eyes, not on his daughter, but on me, with an expression I now recognized as calculating. I placed the photo face down on my desk and left. The drive to the private airfield took 30 minutes. As we approached, I could see my seldom-used Gulfstream G650 being prepared for departure. I had purchased it primarily for business trips when I was still running the company, but now it sat idle most of the time, available for my use but rarely called upon. Thomas met me as I approached the aircraft. We are fueled and ready, Miss Jefferson. The flight plan is filed for downtown. Thank you, Thomas. There has been a change of plans today. I did not elaborate, and he did not ask. One of the reasons I valued Thomas was his professionalism and discretion. Once aboard, I settled into one of the plush leather seats and gazed out the window. In the distance, I could see commercial jets taking off from the main airport. One of them would be carrying my daughter and her family to Hawaii without me. The thought still stung, but the pain was now accompanied by purpose. As we taxied for takeoff, I sent a text message to Elaine. On my way. Please have the trust documents ready for review and amendment. Also need to discuss potential financial exploitation concerns. Her reply was immediate. Will be prepared. Conference room booked for privacy. As my jet accelerated down the runway, I looked out the window one last time toward the commercial airport. Somewhere in the sky above was another plane carrying people who thought they had successfully manipulated me. They had no idea what was coming. The symbolism was not lost on me as their flight took off, carrying them toward what they thought was a victory. I was taking off toward something more powerful, reclaiming control of my life and legacy. Elaine's office occupied the top floor of a sleek downtown building with views of the city skyline. We had selected the location together 15 years ago when her practice was expanding, and I was one of her major clients. I had even invested in the building as a limited partner, another decision that had proven financially sound over the years. Her assistant greeted me with the familiarity of long association. "Miss Jefferson, so good to see you. Miss Davis is expecting you in the conference room." I found Elaine already seated at the large mahogany table, several folders neatly arranged before her. At 65, she remained as sharp and formidable as when we had first met decades ago, as two of the few women in our respective fields. Her silver hair was cut in a practical bob, and she wore her trademark red glasses, which she claimed helped intimidate opposing counsel. "Bobby," she said, rising to embrace me. As she pulled back, her experienced eyes took in my expression. "Something serious has happened." I nodded, setting my briefcase on the table and taking a seat. "I need to make significant changes to my estate plan immediately." Elaine did not react with surprise. Instead, she opened one of the folders. "I have your current documents here. Before we discuss changes, can you tell me what prompted this sudden urgency?" I recounted the airport incident in detail, followed by the pattern of behavior I had observed over the past few years. Elaine listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. When I finished, she removed her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose, a gesture I knew indicated deep concern. "I wish I could say I am surprised," she said finally, "but there have been signs." "What do you mean?" Elaine hesitated, then opened another folder. "Justin has contacted my office 3 times in the past year, asking questions about your estate plan." This revelation hit me like a physical blow. What? Why was I not informed? "Professional ethics, unfortunately. He is your son-in-law, and he framed his inquiries as concerns about Amanda's inheritance and the grandchildren's financial security. My staff appropriately refused to provide any information, but I should have mentioned his unusual interest." She looked genuinely regretful. "I assumed you were aware of his inquiries." "I was not," I said flatly. "What specifically did he want to know?" "Whether the grandchildren were named as direct beneficiaries, the approximate value of the estate, whether there were any conditions attached to Amanda's inheritance." Elaine's expression darkened. "And most recently, whether there was any mechanism for Amanda to receive her inheritance early if you became incapacitated." The implication chilled me. He was exploring ways to access my money if I became ill or incompetent. That would be my interpretation, yes. "What else haven't you told me, Elaine?" She sighed and pulled out another document. "Amanda has missed the last 3 quarterly meetings regarding the family foundation, the one you established primarily for her to run eventually. Justin attended in her place for 2 of them, asking detailed questions about the foundation's assets and whether they could be accessed for family emergencies." My mind was racing. The foundation had been designed as a vehicle for charitable giving, but also as a way to involve Amanda in philanthropy and provide her with meaningful work that aligned with our family values. That Justin was attempting to insert himself into this role was deeply concerning. "There's more," Elaine said reluctantly. She slid a printout across the table. "These are charges to the business credit card you keep available for emergencies." I scanned the document, my disbelief growing with each line. Over the past 6 months, there had been charges totaling nearly $50,000, none of which I had authorized. Designer clothing, a luxury watch, first-class tickets to New York, a weekend at a 5-star hotel. Amanda has access to this card for genuine business expenses when she occasionally consults for the company, I said slowly, but these are clearly personal expenditures. "Yes," Elaine agreed, "and they've been increasing in frequency and amount." Why didn't the accounting department flag this? The charges were accompanied by expense reports that Justin prepared, categorizing them as client development and business representation. Since Amanda is listed as an authorized user and consultant, and the amounts were approved by her, they weren't flagged for your personal review. I sat back trying to process this information. So Justin has been using my company's resources for personal luxury items, and Amanda has been allowing it. It appears so. What else should I know, Elaine? She hesitated, then turned her laptop toward me. I think you should see these emails. You have access to their emails? I asked, surprised. Not exactly. As the attorney for your family foundation and business interests, I have legal authority to monitor communications related to foundation matters. These were sent from Justin's personal email to Amanda's personal email, but they were forwarded to the foundation address by Justin when he was attempting to access foundation information. As such, they became part of the foundation's records. I leaned forward to read the screen, my stomach tightening with each word. The first email, dated 3 months ago, read, "Your mother needs to understand that her money will be ours eventually anyway. Why should we wait until she's gone to enjoy it? The foundation alone has millions sitting there for charity when Sophia and Lucas could have the best education and opportunities. We need to be more aggressive about this." Another from just 2 weeks ago. "The Hawaii trip is our chance. Once we're all there away from her support system, we can have the talk about accelerating our inheritance. She's getting older and clearly wants to be involved with the kids. We can use that." The most recent one, sent just yesterday, "Change of plans. I think we should go without her. She's too strong on her home turf. Let's establish our independence first. Show her we don't need her approval. She'll be so desperate to reconnect with the kids that she'll agree to anything when we get back. Trust me on this." Amanda's replies were not included, but the fact that these messages existed at all indicated a level of calculation that made my blood run cold. "There's one more thing," Elaine said quietly. She handed me her phone, showing a text message conversation that had been captured and forwarded to her by her assistant. It was between Justin and Amanda, apparently from earlier this week. "Justin, once we get the vacation house, we can ask for more. Your mom is getting old. We deserve this now, not later." "Amanda, I don't know, Justin. Mom has always been generous. Maybe we should just talk to her directly." "Justin, that approach hasn't worked. We've been talking directly for years and still living paycheck to paycheck while she sits on millions. This is about our children's future. Do you want them to have every advantage or not?" "Amanda, of course I do. I just don't want to hurt her." "Justin, sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. She needs to learn to let go." I set the phone down, a complex mixture of emotions washing over me. There was anger at Justin's obvious manipulation, but also heartbreak that Amanda had been drawn into his schemes. I could see his tactics clearly appealing to her maternal instincts, creating false financial insecurity, positioning me as an obstacle to her children's well-being. "There's one other concern," Elaine said, her voice gentle but firm. "Our financial investigator found something when reviewing the foundation finances after Justin's unusual questions. He appears to have significant gambling debts." "Gambling? This was entirely unexpected." Elaine nodded grimly. "Online sports betting primarily, but also some casino debts. We estimate at least $200,000, possibly more. He's been taking out personal loans at extremely high interest rates." The pieces suddenly fit together with terrible clarity. Justin wasn't just greedy, he was desperate. His interest in my estate wasn't about family security, but about solving his own financial problems. "Bobby," Elaine said, leaning forward, "I say this as your lawyer and your friend. Protecting your legacy means making hard choices about who controls it. Amanda may be a victim of manipulation here, but she's also making choices that enable this behavior." I nodded slowly, the pain of this realization settling like a weight in my chest. "I understand. What do you recommend?" Elaine straightened, shifting into full legal mode. "A complete restructuring of your estate plan with immediate effect, and perhaps more importantly, immediate protection of your assets from potential exploitation. Tell me what I need to do." As Elaine outlined the options available to me, I felt a strange mixture of sorrow and resolve. The dream of passing my life's work seamlessly to my daughter was dying, but perhaps something healthier could take its place. Something that would truly protect not just my assets, but my daughter and grandchildren as well. For the next 3 hours, Elaine and I worked methodically to restructure my estate plan. What emerged was not just a legal document, but a thoughtful framework that reflected my values and concerns. The key, Elaine explained, is creating a structure that protects assets while still allowing for support and growth. We want to close the door to exploitation without shutting out the possibility of reconciliation. The first priority was establishing an irrevocable trust for my grandchildren's education and future. Unlike the existing college funds which Amanda and Justin could potentially access as parents, this new trust would be managed by an independent trustee with strict distribution guidelines. Sophia and Lucas would be guaranteed excellent education and a financial start in life regardless of what happened between their parents and me. This puts the children's interests first, I noted with satisfaction. No matter what, they will be taken care of. Next came the foundation, which had always been dear to my heart. I want to increase the funding and clarify the governance structure, I told Elaine. The causes we support: education for underprivileged children, medical research, and environmental protection need security. We restructured the foundation board, removing Justin entirely and placing Amanda's role under specific conditions. She would need to complete a comprehensive financial literacy program and demonstrate independent financial decision-making before assuming any leadership position. Is that legal? I asked, requiring specific education and behavior. Absolutely, Elaine confirmed. Foundations frequently have qualification requirements for board members. These are reasonable conditions that serve the foundation's interests. The most difficult decisions concerned Amanda's personal inheritance. After much deliberation, we created a tiered approach. A modest but comfortable amount would be available to her unconditionally. The bulk of the estate, however, would be held in a trust with specific requirements for access. I don't want to control her life, I emphasized, but I won't fund destructive behavior either. These provisions are protective, not punitive, Elaine assured me. You're creating a pathway for her to receive her inheritance in a way that promotes growth and responsibility. Once the new estate plan was drafted, we turned to immediate protections. Elaine called in Jordan, my longtime financial advisor, who joined us via video conference. Together, we implemented a series of actions designed to prevent further exploitation while I considered my next steps. The business credit card Amanda had been using was immediately canceled. All accounts associated with the business were secured with new authorization protocols. The vacation home near Amanda's residence was transferred to a newly created LLC with professional management, removing it from potential improper use while still allowing for family enjoyment under appropriate circumstances. What about digital assets? Jordan asked. We should secure those as well. I hadn't considered this angle, but Jordan was right. In today's world, access to digital accounts could mean access to financial resources. We spent another hour changing passwords, implementing two-factor authentication, and ensuring that my digital life was as secure as my financial one. It was nearly 7 p.m. when we finished the immediate protections. Elaine's staff had ordered dinner, which sat mostly untouched as we worked. I felt mentally exhausted but also strangely empowered. For the first time since the airport incident, I felt like I was back in control of my life. There's one more thing, Jordan said as we were wrapping up. I know this is painful, Bobby, but have you considered what you'll say when Amanda contacts you? She will notice these changes quickly. As if on cue, my phone rang. Amanda's name appeared on the screen. I looked at Elaine and Jordan, who both nodded encouragingly. Answer it, Elaine said softly. But remember what we've discussed. Boundaries are necessary right now. Taking a deep breath, I accepted the call. Hello, Amanda. Mom. Her voice sounded artificially bright. We made it to Hawaii. The resort is absolutely gorgeous. The kids are already in the pool. She spoke as if nothing unusual had happened, as if abandoning me at the airport had been a normal occurrence rather than a calculated betrayal. The disconnect was jarring. I'm glad you arrived safely, I said, keeping my voice neutral. When are you coming? Should we have the resort send a car for you tomorrow? The continuation of the lie took my breath away. Did she really expect me to play along with the fiction that I had a ticket for the next day? Amanda, I said carefully, we both know there never was a ticket for tomorrow. The choice to exclude me from this trip was deliberate. A pause then, Mom, I can explain. Justin thought. I'm not interested in what Justin thought. I interrupted, surprised by my own firmness. I'm interested in what you thought, what you decided. You're my daughter, Amanda. You made a choice today. Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice was different, less certain. Things have been complicated, Mom. You've always been so present in our lives. Sometimes it feels overwhelming. If you felt that way, we could have discussed it. Setting boundaries is healthy. Lying and public humiliation are not. I could hear muffled voices in the background. Then Justin's voice came on the line. Bobby, this is getting blown out of proportion. We just needed some space as a nuclear family. Surely you can understand that. His tone was conciliatory, but with an undercurrent of condescension that set my teeth on edge. What I understand, Justin, is that you orchestrated my exclusion from a family vacation that I planned and paid for. What I understand is that you've been making decisions about my relationship with my daughter and grandchildren without honest communication. Now wait a minute. He began, his voice hardening. No, you wait, I said, finding strength in the clarity of my position. Family unity doesn't begin with abandonment. It begins with respect and honesty, neither of which were present in your actions today. You're overreacting, he said, a note of dismissal in his voice. But while I have you, there's something we've been meaning to discuss. The vacation house, we've been thinking, it would make more sense for us to take it over. For the kids, you understand. And since you have multiple properties... Justin, I cut him off. This is not a conversation I'm willing to have right now. Enjoy your vacation. We'll talk when you return. But... Goodbye, Justin. I ended the call and set my phone down on the table. My hand surprisingly steady despite the emotions churning inside me. Well done, Elaine said quietly. Jordan nodded in agreement. You set a boundary without burning a bridge. That's exactly right. They'll be back early, I predicted, once they realize the accounts are locked and the credit cards canceled. Probably, Elaine agreed, which gives us time to complete the legal work and prepare for that conversation. As I gathered my things to leave, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. The family vacation I had dreamed of was lost, but perhaps something more important was being found, my own voice, and the courage to use it. Thank you both, I said to Elaine and Jordan, for your expertise, but also for your friendship. Just remember, Elaine said, walking me to the door, this isn't about punishment. It's about protection and creating a healthier path forward. I nodded, understanding that the hardest conversations were still ahead. But for the first time since seeing Amanda walk away at the airport, I felt ready to face whatever came next. My prediction proved accurate. 3 days later, my security system alerted me to visitors at my front gate. The camera showed Amanda's car with her in the passenger seat, and Justin driving, his expression tight with anger. The grandchildren were not with them. I had been expecting this moment, and had prepared accordingly. Elaine was on standby, ready to join by video conference if needed. My home security team had been alerted to be especially vigilant with 2 staff members discreetly positioned in the house. I had spent the intervening days gathering additional documentation and preparing myself emotionally for this confrontation. I pressed the intercom button. Amanda, Justin. This is unexpected. I thought you were in Hawaii until next week. Justin leaned toward the speaker, not bothering to hide his irritation. We need to talk, Bobby. Now. I paused, then pressed the gate release. Come up to the house. As they drove up the long driveway, I positioned myself in my study, a room that had always given me strength. The large desk, the wall of books, the awards from my business career, all reminded me of who I was and what I had built. My housekeeper showed them in her expression, professional but concerned. She had worked for me for 15 years and was fiercely protective. Will you be needing anything, Miss Jefferson? She asked, giving me an opportunity to request her presence if I felt unsafe. Just some privacy, Maria, thank you. Amanda entered first, her face pale and drawn. Justin followed, practically vibrating with barely contained anger. Neither of them sat when I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. Where are the children? I asked. With Justin's mother, Amanda replied, We came back early because apparently all our accounts are frozen. Care to explain? I met her gaze steadily. I think the better question is, why were you using my business credit card for personal luxury expenses without my knowledge or consent? Amanda's eyes widened, and she glanced quickly at Justin, whose face had reddened. That's what this is about, he demanded. A few business expenses. Amanda is a consultant for your company. Those were legitimate business development costs. A $40,000 watch is a business development cost, I asked, my voice deliberately calm. First-class tickets to New York when no business meetings were scheduled. A weekend at the Four Seasons with spa treatments. Please explain the business purpose. Amanda looked genuinely confused. What watch? What New York trip? The realization hit me she didn't know. Justin had been making these charges without her full knowledge. Amanda, I said gently, please sit down. She sat slowly, but Justin remained standing, his posture aggressive. This is ridiculous, he snapped. You're trying to control us through money as usual. Well, we won't stand for it. In fact, if you don't release the accounts immediately, we'll have to reconsider your access to Sophia and Lucas. The threat hung in the air, ugly and explicit. It confirmed my worst fears about his character and his willingness to use the children as pawns. Are you threatening to keep my grandchildren from me unless I give you money? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Amanda looked horrified. Justin, no. That's not what we discussed. He ignored her, leaning on my desk and lowering his voice. Let's be practical, Bobby. You're not getting any younger. Do you really want to spend your remaining years cut off from your only family? All we're asking for is what will be ours eventually anyway. I stood slowly, matching his posture. That's where you're wrong, Justin. What's mine is not yours eventually. It's mine to direct as I see fit. And right now, I don't see fit to fund your gambling habit. He jerked back as if slapped. What are you talking about? $200,000 in gambling debts, online sports betting, high-interest loans from questionable sources. Does Amanda know about those? What Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. She turned to Justin, shock evident on her face. Is that true? She's lying, he said quickly. She's trying to turn you against me. I opened a folder on my desk and slid several documents toward Amanda. Bank statements, loan applications, credit reports, text messages to bookies. My legal team has been very thorough. Amanda picked up the papers with trembling hands. As she read, her face went from shock to disbelief to anger. You promised me you'd stopped gambling, she said to Justin. After that incident 2 years ago, you swore to me. It's not what it looks like, he interrupted. Those are investments, not bets. Investments that lost $200,000? Her voice rose. Is that why you've been so desperate for money? Is that why you've been pushing me to ask Mom for more and more? Amanda, I said quietly, there's more you should know. I showed her the emails, the text messages, the evidence of Justin's calculated efforts to access my wealth. With each revelation, she seemed to physically shrink as if the weight of the truth was crushing her. Justin's strategy shifted from denial to justification. Everything I did was for our family, he insisted. Your mother has millions sitting idle while we struggle with mortgage payments and school expenses. All I wanted was for us to have security. By lying. By manipulation. Amanda's voice cracked. By threatening to keep the children from their grandmother? Check his phone, I suggested. Right now. Justin's hand went protectively to his pocket. This is ridiculous. I don't have to submit to this interrogation. What are you afraid she'll find, Justin? I asked. Amanda stood suddenly. Give me your phone. Number. Give me your phone, or I swear I will leave this house with my mother, not with you. The threat seemed to penetrate his armor. With obvious reluctance, he handed over his phone. The passcode, Amanda demanded. Amanda, this is insane. The passcode, Justin. After a tense moment, he muttered a 6-digit number. Amanda entered it and began scrolling through his messages. The color drained from her face. Who is Jessica? She asked, her voice deadly quiet. Justin's expression changed from defiance to panic. She's nobody. A colleague. A colleague you meet at hotels. A colleague you send these kinds of messages to. Hard. She continued, scrolling, each swipe of her finger seeming to reveal new betrayals. And these gambling contacts, all these messages about bets and lines of credit. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. Who are you? I don't even know who you are anymore. Justin's demeanor changed completely. The mask of reasonableness fell away, revealing something ugly beneath. You ungrateful bitch, he spat, taking a step toward Amanda. After everything I've done for you, you were nothing when I met you, living in your mother's shadow, too afraid to have your own life. That's enough, I said, sharply pressing a button under my desk. Almost immediately, 2 security staff appeared at the door. Justin is leaving now. "This isn't over," he snarled, but he backed away when the security personnel stepped forward. "Amanda, are you coming or staying with Mommy, dearest?" Amanda stood frozen, the phone still in her hand, tears on her cheeks. "I'll have your things sent to your mother's house," he said bitterly when she didn't respond, "along with the kids' stuff. See how well you do as a single mother with no husband and a controlling mother." Mr. Sullivan, one of the security staff, said firmly, "Please come with us now." As they escorted him out, his parting shot echoed in the room. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." When the door closed behind them, Amanda collapsed into the chair, her body shaking with silent sobs. I wanted to go to her, to hold her as I had when she was small and hurting, but I sensed she needed space to process the avalanche of revelations. After several minutes, she looked up, her eyes red but clearer than I had seen them in years. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "I'm so ashamed." "Amanda." "No, please let me finish. I let him come between us. I let him isolate me from you. I believed his lies because they were easier than facing my own insecurities." She took a shuddering breath. "And the airport. I knew it was wrong. I knew it would hurt you deeply, but I was too weak to stand up to him." "He was manipulating you," I said gently. "Yes, but I allowed it. I participated in it." She looked down at her hands. "I've become someone I don't recognize, someone I don't like. How did I let this happen?" It would have been easy in that moment to say, "I told you so," or to enumerate the ways she had hurt me. But looking at my daughter, truly seeing her vulnerability and pain, I could only feel compassion. "Manipulative people target strengths as much as weaknesses," I said. "Your loyalty, your commitment to family, your desire to keep peace, these are beautiful qualities that he twisted to his advantage. But the things I said to you, the way I treated you." "We will address those," I assured her. "There will need to be changes, boundaries, new understandings between us. But right now, what you need to know is that I'm here, and we will figure this out together." Amanda nodded, wiping her eyes. "The kids," she said suddenly. "I need to get them. They're with his mother, and after this I don't trust." "I'll send security with you," I said immediately. "We'll bring them here until we can sort things out." As I made the necessary calls, I watched Amanda sitting quietly, staring at nothing, occasionally shaking her head as if in disbelief. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be legal battles, emotional reckonings, difficult conversations. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was seeing my real daughter again, not the shadow Justin had made of her. When I finished the calls, I sat beside her and tentatively took her hand. She gripped mine tightly. "I don't know who I've become," she whispered, "but I want to find myself again, the self you raised me to be." "You will," I promised, "and I'll be here every step of the way." 6 months passed, bringing changes I could never have anticipated that day at the airport. The path had not been easy, but it had led to healing I had almost stopped believing was possible. Amanda filed for divorce within weeks of the confrontation. Justin fought it bitterly, particularly the custody arrangements, but his position weakened considerably when his gambling debts and infidelity became part of the court record. The final agreement gave Amanda primary custody of the children, with Justin having supervised visitation until he completed gambling addiction treatment and financial counseling. The legal battles were stressful but necessary. Elaine proved invaluable, not just as my attorney, but as a steady presence, helping both Amanda and me navigate the complexities of disentangling her life from Justin's. The evidence we had gathered that day in my study provided crucial leverage in negotiations. Amanda moved with the children into the guest house on my property, an arrangement that offered her independence while providing security and support during the transition. We were careful to establish healthy boundaries from the beginning. She had her own entrance, managed her own schedule, and made her own decisions about the children's daily lives. I was available when needed, but conscientious about not overstepping. Perhaps the most significant change was Amanda's decision to rebuild her own career. Despite Justin's attempts to position her as financially dependent, she had always been capable and intelligent. She took an entry-level position at a marketing firm, refusing my offer to help her secure something more senior. "I need to do this on my own," she explained. "I lost myself in my marriage. I need to find out who I am professionally without anyone's influence or assistance." I respected her choice, recognizing in it the same determination that had driven me in building my own business. Instead of financial support, I offered practical help with the children, picking them up from school 2 days a week and having them for overnight stays once a month to give Amanda space to focus on her work and recovery. Those days with my grandchildren became precious beyond measure. Sophia, now 8, was old enough to understand some of what had happened, though we were careful about how much we shared. "Daddy made some mistakes and needs time to get better," was our agreed-upon explanation. Lucas, at 6, simply accepted that things were different now, though he sometimes asked when they would go back to their old house. The most profound healing came gradually in quiet moments rather than dramatic confrontations. There was the rainy Saturday when Amanda asked me to teach her how to make my special chicken soup, something she had shown no interest in learning since her teenage years. There was the evening. She brought me a financial question about her retirement account, seeking my advice, rather than hiding her finances as she had during her marriage. There was the day she asked if I would attend a mother-daughter therapy session with her, a request that moved me to tears. About 4 months after the separation, Amanda came to the main house one evening after the children were asleep. I could tell from her expression that something important was on her mind. "Mom." She began, sitting across from me at the kitchen table, where we had shared so many conversations over the years. "I need to really apologize to you, not just for what happened at the airport, but for all of it. For pulling away. For letting Justin come between us. For forgetting who I am and where I came from. Amanda, please let me finish. I've been working on this in therapy." She took a deep breath. The airport was just the culmination of years of small betrayals. I chose his version of reality over what I knew in my heart to be true. I prioritized keeping peace with him over treating you with the respect and love you deserved. I became so focused on being his wife that I forgot how to be your daughter, how to be myself. Her words were painful to hear, but also healing, acknowledging a truth we had both been dancing around. "The hardest part to admit," she continued, "is that it wasn't all Justin's manipulation. Some of it was my own weakness, my own insecurities. I was jealous of your success, resentful of living in your shadow. Justin exploited those feelings, but they were mine to begin with." I reached across the table and took her hand. "We all have vulnerabilities, Amanda. The strongest people I know are those who can acknowledge them and learn from them." "That's what I'm trying to do now," she said. "Learn from this and become stronger. Not just for the kids, but for myself. And for you, if you'll let me." "I have never stopped loving you," I told her. "Not for one moment, not even at the airport. I was hurt and angry, yes, but beneath that was always love." We talked late into the night, in a way we hadn't for years. There were tears and difficult admissions on both sides. I acknowledged my own role in our strained relationship, my tendency to take control rather than allow Amanda to find her own way. We began the delicate work of rebuilding trust, setting new boundaries, and defining the relationship we wanted to have moving forward. As winter turned to spring, our family began to heal. The revisions to my estate plan remained in place, but with modifications. The educational trusts for the grandchildren were strengthened. The foundation was restructured, with Amanda gradually taking on more responsibility as she demonstrated her commitment and ability. Her personal inheritance remained protected, but with clearer pathways for her to access it as she rebuilt her financial independence. On the anniversary of the airport incident, we gathered our courage and took a family trip, just Amanda, the children, and me. Not to Hawaii, but to the lake house where Amanda and I had spent so many happy summers during her childhood. It was a simple vacation without luxury resorts or elaborate activities, but it was genuine in a way the Hawaii trip never could have been. On our last evening there, as we sat on the dock watching the sunset, Amanda turned to me. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For protecting me from Justin's schemes, even when I couldn't see them. For loving me enough to stand firm when it would have been easier to give in." I smiled, watching Sophia and Lucas skipping stones at the water's edge. That's what mothers do. We protect what matters most, even when it's difficult, even when it breaks our hearts. "I'm learning that now with my own children," she said. "I want them to grow up with the same strength and independence you taught me before I lost my way." "You never truly lost it," I told her. "It was always there waiting for you to reclaim it." As we prepared to board our flight home the next day, I watched Amanda confidently managing the children's excitement, setting clear boundaries with Lucas when he began to get overtired praising Sophia for helping with the luggage. She caught my eye and smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. We walked together to the gate, our boarding passes checked our family intact. As we settled into our seats, I reflected on the journey of the past year. The pain of that day at the airport had led to growth and healing I could never have imagined. My daughter had found her strength. My grandchildren were thriving. And I had learned that sometimes the greatest love we can offer is the courage to protect what matters, even when it means making painful choices. True wealth, I realized, was never about the money I had accumulated or the business I had built. It was about the resilience to face betrayal without becoming bitter. It was about the wisdom to distinguish between enabling and supporting. It was about the capacity to keep my heart open even after it had been broken. As our plane soared into the sky, Amanda reached over and squeezed my hand. No words were necessary. We had both learned that life's most valuable inheritances are not passed through legal documents, but through the examples we set, the boundaries we maintain, and the love that remains steadfast even in our darkest moments. I wonder, as you reflect on my story, what in your own life might need protection? Is there a relationship where boundaries could bring healing rather than division? Remember that standing firm for what matters is not about control, but about love in its most courageous form. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe for more life lessons from someone who has learned them the hard way, and leave a comment about a time when you had to make a difficult choice to protect what mattered most. Thank you for listening, and may you find the wisdom to recognize your true worth and the courage to honor it.